Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast. Prepare yourselves for a deep conversation, one that was interrupted a few weeks ago when Ray Ray McElrathbey lost control of the commercial vehicle he was driving and tumbled down into a ravine. He was hospitalized, is alive and well a few weeks later back in Atlanta. And so we're going to resume the conversation. We also, at TigerIllustrated.com, talked to Ray Ray a few weeks ago for our Clemson 30 series, asking a collection of former football players from different eras, their thoughts on NIL, the transfer portal, what they're up to now. Bunch of great stuff in that series if you want to go check it out. My good friends Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold have been part of the podcast since the beginning, way back in August of 2018. They have an accomplished team of personal injury attorneys at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold based in Greenville. They are Clemson people, and their skillful attorneys have decades of experience in complicated litigation matters, taking a special interest in medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, and neglect, car accident cases that have left the individuals involved in serious trouble. For a free consultation at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, call 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com. That's PARHAM law.com. Want to share a quick word about Founders Federal Credit Union? If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Matt Gross is a proud Clemson alum and the vice president for the Clemson market for Founders Federal Credit Union. Matt's office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. When you're ready for a complete renovation in your home or business, open the door to more with Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Their local experienced team will totally transform any room space, from beautiful floor coverings to construction to finished details. Harris handles every step of your renovation process, whether it's a kitchen or living room or an industrial or educational setting, like some of the positively stunning work they've done at Clemson University. Go to discoverharris.com and experience a total renovation transformation from Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Okay, to our conversation. Not an easy one here. We go a lot of different places with Ray Ray, how he looks back at the movie Safety from 2 years ago, his relationship with his late father and regrets on sort of how he handled the relationship there, also updating on his mother and how she's doing. Anyway, let's get to it. Here we go. Okay, joined by Ray Ray McElrathbey, who is driving a truck somewhere around Roswell, New Mexico. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yes, that is true.
All right, we got a lot to unpack with this. Okay, what are you doing? What kind of truck? How did you come to be near Roswell, New Mexico, instead of Roswell, Georgia?
Well, I have a trucking company, and I have box trucks, 26-foot box trucks. Looking to move into semis pretty soon here, but just with the box trucks right now, I have 4 trucks that I run around America with. I'm just trying to build a business, so I have something to give to my son and something that helps me support my family and any other endeavor I want to, I guess, venture down.
How far? When did you start doing this?
I've been doing it close to right after the movie, actually. So about a year and a half, 2 years.
Give us the, for those who don't know how one gets into the business, sort of the finer points of where did you start? Like what did you, when you first decided you might want to do it, what did you do?
Well, first, I had a conversation with my mother, who was getting bothered by me spending a lot of money, not exactly sure what I was doing with my life. And she was telling me that I need to start a business, that I need to, do something a little bit more tangible with my income. And I was trying to figure out things that, fit my personality, something I like to do, but also something that can help my brothers. Like, they were not working at the time, but I mean, if I started a business that they can join in with me, then it helps. So that's what initially got me to start looking for something to do with my money, as opposed to just trying to invest in the stock market and make money that way.
Which you did that too, right?
Yeah, I did that too. And boy, oh boy, I got hit like everybody else got hit. It's unfortunate, but that's life. But it gave me a new passion for something outside of football. And it was, I'm still very excited about what the future holds via the stock market and, my life and the things that I can do just by learning the trade itself.
All right, let's go back to when you decided you wanted to start in trucking.
Once I decided, I bought one truck. I had my brother driving it, and we were both driving it, and so it was good.
Your brother Fahmarr?
Cornelius, actually.
I'm sorry.
Cornelius was the first driver. Fahmarr drove for me for a little bit, but he didn't like being on the road. And I tell him it's a means to an end. It's not like, I'm going to be in trucking forever. But, if we can build the business, we can have something for our family. We won't have to go find me for no events ever in life. We can take care of ourselves.
What's the company called?
Keep It 100.
Keep It 100 Trucking.
Yep.
So, you started with one truck?
Yes.
And how do you grow it from there? I'm not interested in entering the trucking industry. I'm just genuinely curious.
Well, you start off with one truck. Hopefully, you get loads. You make money. Then you take the Amazon approach. You reinvest the money that you get, as well as what's the thing? Now, after you reinvest, you take the Amazon approach, you reinvest the money, but you also take the Tesla approach and try to get everything in-house. So whether you do your dispatching, your mechanic, all that kind of stuff, you want to do all that in-house, because the less stuff that you have to pay for is the more money that you can keep at the end of the day. So eventually, I want to become my own broker, dispatch all my own trucks, and just basically have an integrated system top to bottom. So that's the plan. And the Amazon model, take everything that you make and reinvest it. So Uncle Sam don't come beat the hell out of me. Excuse my language.
So right now, you're a lot of this stuff is out of house, where maintenance and things like that. You're having to pay for that for somebody else to do it, I guess.
Yes, maintenance, dispatching, but my goal is to do everything in house at the end of the day. And then also just to basically take the profits. Because I was watching something last night. You ever seen Immigration Nation on Netflix?
Have not.
It's the saddest thing you ever want to see. And there's these families, and you know how you see those Save the Children commercials, like 39 cents a day could feed, can help a kid survive. And then for some of the people, that's the true fact. Like, because the exchange rate is so different that you can send 30 cents a day and it can help sustain someone's life. And I'm watching these people, who only pray for running water. Yeah. not nothing special, not hot water, but just running water. And then these families that get caught up in the system and their parents separated from the kids, all that kind of stuff, and you watch it. And then for me, like I've been donating money to, I guess, Middle Eastern countries as well. And you can send $25 and it feeds 50 people. Mm. And they'll send you like little videos of your donation, what your donation did, or how many people your donation fed. They'll show you the people and the place and what is it going to. And so that's always been something that made me feel better. And so, as well as, everything I want to do as far as making profit, I want to give back as well. And I know if I'm in a position that I can give back, and I tell people during the times when I'm speaking, that look, my bargain with God was that, if you make it okay for me, I'll be okay. I'll try to make it okay for everybody else. And, I'm okay. As I tell people, me and God are cool. There's times where I'm not okay, but right now I'm okay. And so I'll do what I can to, fulfill my end of the bargain that I had with God. Those nights I was crying in the bathroom in the dark.
Yeah. How many trucks do you have now?
4.
4 trucks. And those, you have other people driving them, I suppose?
Yes.
And you mentioned the stock market, taking a hit off that. I imagine the gas prices is like a double blow for you with given that industry you're involved in.
Yes. I feel every penny. Every penny, every 10-cent gas goes up. I notice easily. It's no problem. It affects my bottom line drastically. Because most people would be like, well, it's only, an extra 10 cents a gallon. But if you average in, 1,000 gallons or 2,000 gallons a week, like it comes out to a lot after a while.
Yeah. Big deal.
Oh, real big deal. And then even if you're driving on the East Coast or the West Coast, I mean, because some gas stations in California are $7 a gallon for diesel.
Oh, these are diesel trucks.
Yeah, these are diesel trucks. Yes, it's all diesel.
So go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm good. Go ahead.
So this trip right now, you were in. When did it start?
Arizona.
No, I mean, when did you leave Atlanta on this trip?
Ooh, I've been gone from Atlanta. I didn't leave Atlanta. I had a speaking engagement in Memphis, at Memphis Methodist Hospital. It's the Dennis Jones Living Well Center.
Mm-hmm.
I did an event in Memphis with them, and from Memphis, I had my truck there, so I went from Memphis to Arizona to drop a load because I picked up a load in Memphis and dropped off in Arizona, and then from Arizona to New Mexico. But I've been on the road for last 2 weeks.
Okay. And then you're on your way to Ohio right now?
Mm-hmm. And then supposed to be in Atlanta by Thursday because my niece's graduation. And then my son wants to have a yes day. I had to give up a yes day because I've been gone.
What's a yes day?
Well, he's been watching this show, a movie on Netflix, where it's a yes day where everything that the kid asks for that day, the parents have to say yes. As long as there's nothing in the future or ridiculously outrageous.
Sounds like you're looking forward to that.
Yeah. Right. He has some basic requests. He wants to go grocery shopping to get all the snacks he wants. Six Flags, which is a amusement park in Atlanta, as well as Sky Zone, which is a jumping trampoline park. And he wants to finish off with iFly, which is a skydiving type of deal.
All this in one day?
Yes, and he wants the Oculus. But you're going to have to wait for that. But all that in one day, yes. I got some making up to do since I've been gone.
So 2.5 weeks total, 2 or 3 weeks that you will have been once you get. Is that normal? Is that like the typical?
Well, typically I'm not a driver. I end up losing a driver because the economy, and then people. It's not as easy for other individuals to be on the road. Finding drivers is one of the hardest things. That's why you see Walmart giving out $100,000 supposedly for drivers. And the shortage is real, so it's hard to come about drivers. So I'm on the road because I actually don't have anyone to put in the truck at this very moment.
So basically, ideally, and you're if not for all the economic stuff going on, you'd be home sort of calling the shots for others to be out there on the road.
Yes. I want to continue speaking and almost like a pastor, I go share the word, go help others. I feel like that's my biggest asset right now, and how I can help as many as people as possible relatively quickly.
And you have something you call the Safety Net Foundation?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, it's helping at-risk kids And my initial goal was just to sponsor 3 kids. And I did 3 kids for my son's school. And I basically mentored them to try to make sure they're doing the right thing, and help others as I go. I was working with the school to identify some kids that might be basically on the verge, where they can go either way. They just need guidance. Similar to myself.
Yeah.
Because I was a knucklehead before somebody found me and, gave me a little sense.
What is it like for, I guess, being away from your son for such long periods? What is it like for him, you being away? And is he okay? Is he being taken care of?
Yes, he's taken care of. He's with his mother, but he doesn't appreciate me going for long periods of time without him. Because his main thing, he likes riding with me when I'm on the road. Actually, he's been on the road with me a couple of times, and so he was born in California, and his mother is from California. So her side of the family, his maternal side of the family, is there, and he always wants to get out to California to go see them anytime we're on the road. So, and then he enjoys being on the road because he's a kid. He gets to see new things. We try to stop at various places where there's like a state park or some type of attraction that, he can see. So by the time he comes back to school from the summertime, he has a whole, list of stories for all the places he's been. And because I think last year when we traveled with him in the summer, we went through 38 states.
Wow.
Yeah, so he has a good time and he enjoys it, and I enjoy spending time with my son. And so it's hard not being around him. But as I tell people, a lot of the time, if anybody ever seen this movie with Paycheck with Ben Affleck, and it talks about he does a job, he's a engineer, but the jobs, he doesn't ever remember them, but he loses that time. So however long he's doing the job, he loses that time. And so one job that the main job what this movie is based on is a 3-year job. And how the guy explains it to him is that it's 3 years for the rest of your life. So this is the last job you have to do. It'll take you 3 years to do it. You'll give up 3 years, but you'll never have to work again for the rest of your life. And in my mind, that's my goal. Like, I'm gonna get 2 hard years in, and if I sacrifice 2 years, then I shouldn't have to work for the rest of my life again.
But even when you're working, like you mentioned last summer, I mean, him being able to travel with you 38 states, that's precious time. Memories of a lifetime, I would think.
Yes. We did everything. We went to the Space Needle last year, went to the Arch in St. Louis, Sears Tower in Chicago. We rode through the Grand Canyon area and seen some other canyons in Arizona. Florida, went to the beach, Miami, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale. We went to Disney, which is it? Land is in Cali. Yeah, Land. Of course, he went to California. He saw his other side of the family. We spent about 3 days out there. We kind of went to Vegas, seen Vegas. Went to Circus and did a little park that's inside of there. So it was fun.
Are you made for the road? Are you built for what you're doing right now?
I'm one of those people that I look at it as a means to an end. So whatever I'm doing, if I look at it as a sacrifice I can make. So if I'm not built for it, I'm still built for it. Because the only thing that makes me not built for it is my mindset. And so if I can change my mindset, if I can switch up the perspective, then everything should be okay.
So you can pretty much handle anything, whatever comes at you.
Essentially, because I always give the story that when I growing up, I couldn't stand washing dishes, but I enjoyed laundry. And I have no reason not to like washing dishes. I just always been telling myself that since I was younger, because I didn't feel like it was a man's job to be washing dishes. So I looked at it as if it was some that, I don't like washing dishes. And I continue to tell myself long enough that I start believing it. But you can do that in reverse. You can tell yourself, I love washing dishes. So if you're like, I got to wash dishes, I love washing dishes. And I continue to tell myself that eventually I'll believe it. And dishes aren't that bad.
So the reason you and I reconnected, I guess last week, was you were a part of this Clemson 30 series we're doing, talking to 30 former football players from different eras and just asking them 3 basic questions. 1 is what you're up to now. 2 is your thoughts on where the program is under Dabo. And 3 is your take on the current landscape of college athletics with the portal and NIL. And I hang up the phone after a 10-minute, well, it was more than 10 minutes, but 20-minute conversation, and I'm like, that just felt incomplete because of of how your life has changed over the last few years, and the fact that you were the subject, you and your brother and your mother were the subjects of a Disney movie. So that's the reason for this conversation. Can you just sum up how your life is different since the movie came out?
Well, it's different. I mean, I'm different. My life hasn't been too much different other than me continuously being busy, but I was busy before the movie, a little busybody, kind of bouncing around, doing all kinds of stuff. But since the movie, I've had more opportunities to speak to people. It's given me a larger platform to share my message and to share the things that I've been through and how I overcame. And so I've been doing that most recently, excessively, as much as I possibly could. But life, most people would believe that, once you have a movie, everything's great. Mm-hmm. But we all know how life works. No matter what's going on, it's not always great. And there's a quote that, if you can't wait till everything's going right in your life to be happy. So it's not that I'm sad, but I understand that there's still things that I have to go through and that I will go through, just because it's how life works. And I've been trying to take on those things as they come. It's a little bit different now because where at one point it was like, okay, maybe he's having a hard time, but now it's more of an expectation that I'm okay.
Right. Happily ever after.
Yeah, I'm happily ever after. Everything's happily ever after now. Like I don't have any issues. And truth be told, I might have more issues. They say with more money comes more problems. I did receive some money for everything that I do, but even with that, there comes, more responsibilities. Like, I have a whole trucking company and employees that I'm responsible for, who look to me to provide things for their family. And so I'm more responsible now, so it's not as happily ever after. I'm actually working more now than I did before the movie.
Yeah.
Because more is expected of me on one end, and then I expect more of myself. Like, because my thought process is that I'm supposed to be getting better at this. So with that being said, then I can take on more. I can affect more people. I can help more. And so it calls on me to do more. And in my mind, there was times I used to play Madden. I used to be on a video game and I had, 3 hours to kill. It's not that I did, but, I didn't have any responsibility that was immediate. Because the only thing you should procrastinate in doing is procrastinate. Like, don't take all that time. And that's what I was doing when I thought I had time. And then life happened, and now it's hard for me to find time. Well, when I'm not on the road, it's kind of quite easy when you're on the road. At least talking, but I can't be doing anything outside of running my mouth.
I don't want to get too personal here, totally into your business, but
No, we can get all kind of personal.
Okay, sounds good.
My life. My life is all personal. This is. I'm share it with the world. Hopefully, it helps someone.
Was the arrangement, was the deal you got for the movie financially? Was it, in hindsight, pros and cons and everything? Was it a fair shake for you? I mean, was it enough?
In my mind, I feel like Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle with his Comedy Central deal. Because when I was watching one of his stand-ups, and he was just like, when I first got the contract, I signed the contract like any desperate 27-year-old would sign the contract. It didn't matter. Hell, because it's this or what. This is my break, and I'll take this break and make everything great. And so, no, it wasn't the best deal. Hell no, at all. It was all bad.
All bad.
It was all bad. It was good, just for recognition purposes, but other than that, it was all bad.
All bad in terms of you basically signing over somebody else's. You're telling somebody else you can tell my story and tell whatever story you want to, leave whatever stuff out that you want to.
Leave whatever in and out. I had some control, but not much. I can ask. If that's called control, I don't know what kind of control it is, but I could ask. And they were pretty. Not saying that they took things and did stuff that I didn't want them to do, but more so that I could have did a much better deal if I was in a better place when I signed the deal. But again, it was the opportunity of a lifetime as far as I was concerned.
Can you refresh me on when? I mean, you had signed the deal a long time before they.
Well, see, that was the issue, because my old deal was the deal that they wanted me to go into, but life had changed since the old deal.
What do you mean?
Well, that like the story had died down. As far as the public was concerned, people still knew it, but it had died down. And so during Dave Chappelle's Netflix thing, it was just like, they got this contract and they talk about, using your life in this universe. I mean, using your story in this universe and then in the next and all perpetuity throughout the universe, wherever the hell, and doing what they want to do. And so he talked about the part where, you don't have an attorney. So when you get suggestions for attorneys, typically you go to the people that you're working with. They already had an attorney. And then he talked about how the 3-card Monty, and he was just like, he went over there and they were showing him, and he was like, he was sure which card, the red ball was under. And he realized that everybody in the room, everybody in that group that he was, betting his money with were friends.
Right.
And so he was just like, so what if that was the case when this contract came around? And which is similar to my case. It was pretty much, everybody in the room was friends, and I didn't know it.
When did you sort of get wise to it? When did you start learning more?
Once we started shooting. Once they greenlit it, because for me, I had signed 4 deals prior to that nothing happened. So I wasn't even thinking that they were going to do anything. And then once they decided to go with it, then all that stuff mattered to me. And so I was like, oh shit, what happens now? And so then I went back and I was like, oh, this ain't cool.
And go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it was one of my. It's one of the things that I Fahmarr trusted me in this process, and I kind of ended up not leading him the best way possible. I didn't do enough research. I didn't do due diligence. I didn't do all the stuff that they talk about when you investing in stocks. Do your own research. Look to other people. Yes, and then I said the 5P's: proper preparation prevents poor performance. And I wasn't properly prepared. So.
Okay, and this is where the conversation from a few weeks ago got cut. It's also about a minute later when he got into the wreck and was hospitalized, and now we're going to pick it up with our more recent conversation with him from back home in Atlanta. All right, so we we had a bit of an interruption, Ray. A 3 week interruption.
Small one. Concussion induced one.
I still can't really wrap my mind around what happened, and that you overcorrected with your truck, your cargo truck, and went over the side of a ravine, I guess. Is that what it was?
Yes, of a ravine that I did.
All right. Can you assure me that I am not, that your conversation with me or your attempt to get back in touch with me, were you fiddling with your phone? Because we got disconnected. We got, I guess you were in a bad spot cell-wise. I lost you.
Well, yes, that was the thing. The road I was on wasn't made for trucks.
All right, where was this?
New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Ruidoso, New Mexico. Random place in the middle of America. So the road wasn't made for, actually no commercial vehicles were supposed to be on the road. But the sheriff had sent me down that road because the actual highway, a tractor had flipped over and there was a fatality, so they was dealing with that.
On the interstate?
On the main road that I was supposed to be on. And so on this little back road, it's 2 lanes and there's drop-offs on both sides.
You're in the mountains.
Right, no guardrail. So I went off on one side, and since it was a drop-off, it was an elevated road, so it dropped. Truck went with it. The cargo shifted slightly. I corrected it. Was going left, but the truck was still trying to go right. So went off the road on the other side, rolled a couple of times, and here I am. Thank God.
Yeah, you sent me a picture like an hour later saying this just happened, of a picture of the boxes all over the place, the truck ruined.
Yeah,
I guess. Go ahead.
I'm willing to share those with the audience. If I'll send them to you, you can post them to give the story context.
Yeah. And so your injuries were, we said concussion. What else?
I had a mild concussion. Luckily, I played football. Some minor contusions. I ended up getting 62 stitches for various cuts on my body. But all in all, I was okay, a little rattled. Made me feel like I need to go to an FCA meeting.
Yeah.
Me and Guy got some talking to do.
And you had a passenger with you?
Yes, another driver.
And she was okay?
Yes.
So, and I remember you telling me there was if not for a big rock that caused the rolling to stop, it would have gone down how much farther in your estimation?
About another 50 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, and then because it was so strange how I ended up flipping, because the rock that caught me, it didn't catch the box, it caught the cab, but before the accident, I was facing in the opposite direction, So if I was going north, by the end of the accident, my truck was facing south.
Jeez.
It's not a little bitty truck. But, I'm alive. I always got to get excited about being alive. And this is just another one of those stories that go along with, all my other, stories of overcoming. Just add it under my belt. Part of the experience.
In my mind, as I recreate what happened, I'm picturing the signal going out with your conversation with me, and then you looking down to try to call me back, and that's what distracted you. Is that what happened?
No, not exactly.
No?
Not at all.
Not exactly?
I was on my headset when I was talking to you.
Right.
And so I knew I was in a bad area, so that wasn't much of the issue. It was a small road, and I was coming around a curve. And so typically, like on a regular road, there would have been a lot more real estate to work with. But since there was a drop off to the right, and in fear of dropping off to the right, I tried to hurry up and get back on the road. It ended up going to the other side.
And how many boxes were on that truck?
It was 9,000 pounds worth of boxes. So out of all those boxes, it could have been like 300 to 500.
And you were taking, it was semiconductors, right? From Texas or New Mexico to Ohio?
Yes.
Which one?
They were supposed, I came from Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. They was head.
So can you take me, like, if you can think back to what, this sounds like such a lame sports reporter question, what was going through your mind when you scored that touchdown or got that interception? But I'm interested, like, what was your first thought when you realized you weren't going to be able to keep that thing on the road?
Excuse my language, but oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Here we go. Brace yourself. In my mind, it was like, brace yourself. This wasn't the first accident I was ever involved in. So prior experience, told me in my mind to brace myself and get ready. And I could tell you what was going through my mind during the crash. I was like, in my mind, it happened. It seemed like it lasted forever, but it might have been a few seconds. We were rolling. And I was like, oh, this can't be happening. And in my mind, you know how you have a real bad dream and you're like, okay, I'm finna wake up now.
Yeah.
All right, that's where I was with it. I'm like, okay, I'm finna wake up now. Wake up. This can't be real. Wake up. And when I woke up, not that I was asleep, but when it was finally over, I was like, okay, I gotta stop driving. It was the first thought that came to my mind, like, okay, God's trying to tell me something.
Yeah, because even before that, I think in our conversation, you were it sort of seemed like you were only doing it because you had somebody, you didn't have anybody to do it. You'd lost one of your drivers, and you didn't really feel totally comfortable doing it. Is that the right?
Yeah, I had lost one of the drivers, and it was me just kind of going to pick up the truck, and it wasn't my intentions to be on the road at the time. And so it was one of those situations.
So you get taken to the hospital?
Yes.
And how long? You say one night?
They wanted to keep me, but they charged too much to let me sleep in the bed.
Yeah.
It was a hotel across the street, and I told them if I have any issues, y'all can come get me from there.
Smart move. And then you ended up driving home to Atlanta.
Yep.
And where are things now as far as are you still saying I don't think I want to drive anymore? Where do things stand with the business? I'm assuming insurance covered the truck and all that.
Yeah, I'm going going through the motions with the insurance company right this very moment. But I got home and I started to think about more about because in my mind, God wanted me to pause. So whatever I was doing, I needed to stop for a moment and reflect or whatever. And during this time, I've been not driving or even kind of too consumed with trucking. I've listened to a few people talk about things that they would like me to be a part of, and it involves helping people and doing good in the world. So I believe that's more of my lane right now.
You interested in getting more into the specifics of it, or not yet?
Well, as far as the specifics, FCA, basically, because in my mind, I already know I have a testimony. And it's a story that is only possible because of God. And I feel like because I've been through what I've been through, I think I'll be more than qualified to speak on grace and humbling yourself and just how the world works about, a setback is only a setup for a comeback. And so I take it as God's trying to put me in another direction right now. And I think it's geared towards more of my purpose, which is to help others reach their destiny.
So are you in the early stages of trying to figure out selling the trucking company and the other stuff, sort of shedding the other stuff you're doing?
Well, not necessarily shedding the part where I'm driving as much as I was at the time. More so like keeping the trucking company going, but at the same time being more involved in other things, more involved in speaking. We have a crisis right now in Atlanta with our youth not foster care parents. And they have a lot of our youth staying at defects facilities, the places where you go get your food stamps. And they hang out there all day. And because there's a shortage of qualified parents. And so along with my organization, I was thinking about doing something about that, because that's the first thing that came to me, and it felt like an epiphany about like, oh, well, maybe this is it. Because it was the first thing that someone spoke to me about, after I decided that I was like, I'm ready to get back to doing something. And, well, I was, alerted about a problem that I can help solve, possibly. So I was going to look for someone or something, maybe Disney or somebody or an affiliate to sponsor a center where these kids can go. Because they say that it's upwards to $600 a day that they spend on these kids just to sit in that office. And so I'm pretty sure with the budget concerns that I know the city has and America has, that the money could be used a lot more efficiently.
And holistically, I guess, too.
Yes, and I don't think I'm not the right person to do it. And then all the people that I can bring in to said endeavor. Because initially I had the funny thing is that I had planned to go up to Clemson to do the camps. But that didn't work out because I was good.
I'm sorry, which camps? Dabo's camp?
Yes.
To speak?
Well, no, I was going to work them in and possibly run my mouth if necessary.
So what happened? What?
And then my stitches.
You were gonna, before the wreck happened, you were gonna.
Yeah, yes, because I was in contact with them about coming up, and everybody was excited. They seen Coach Sorrells.
Jordan Sorrells.
We had spoke via email, and then life happened.
Jeez.
And so, because in my mind, I had thoughts about kind of bringing a similar idea to Clemson about because one of my friends has an AAU basketball team, and I was thinking of doing something similar with some kids around my son's age. Not necessarily an AAU football team because there's no such thing, but basically a group of kids that he basically grows up with that I kind of mentor and as well as coach.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like that's your calling.
Yeah, it's one thing I do naturally, and it doesn't involve crashing.
Yeah. You sent me some videos of you speaking in Memphis at that. The specific event is not
Methodist Hospital. Dennis Jones Wellness Breakfast.
Yeah. You seem like you seem really comfortable sharing and helping and just bearing everything.
Well, yeah. I told the people at that particular event that I was put through the things. I believe I was put through the things that I was put through in order to bear the weight of it, to know what it felt like. And similar to lifting in football, in order to get stronger, you have to lift more weight than you're used to. But once you do it, your muscles naturally tear and rebuild themselves and come back stronger. So you adapt. And because I've been through the things that I've been through, I'm able to adapt to a lot of chaotic situations. And so I tell myself I work out and I lift weights to carry other people's burdens. And when I go out and speak, the most refreshing thing to me is when I know I touched someone. And the way I typically gauge it is how many people come to me afterwards and tell me their trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And share their trauma, because it's like, I know I reached you because you felt so compelled by what I said that you wanted to let me know about what you've been through because you know I understand. And it's that feeling that you're not alone. And to be that person for somebody, to make them feel as if they're not alone in the world or alone in, trauma, is I think is very helpful. And a lot of the times when I'm on stage, I have someone up there with me. And I tell the crowd and others that person is like, my comfort animal. Not that I need them, but I do feel better when they're there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to really say anything either. It's just to have someone. And I speak about, it's okay not to be okay. There's a phrase that there's a other gentleman that I'm real cool with share. And it's those type of situations and relationships that, make life worthwhile for me.
If you're in the Eastern Midlands and PD area and you're in any way interested in buying and selling a home, commercial property, land, need to consider reaching out to Uptown Realty. They're based out of Sumter and run by a friend of mine, Patrick Enzer, big Clemson guy, used to cover the Tigers in a newspaper capacity, longtime supporter of Tiger Illustrated, longtime listener to the Dubcast. The home buying process should be an enjoyable experience, so let Patrick and his staff do all the heavy lifting. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 803-774-0435 or go to uptownrealtysc.com. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith and Archambault. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Solero Communications, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Solero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Solero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Solero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Solero at solerocommerce.com. That's CELERO commerce.com. So at the end of part one of our conversation, we cut off when we're talking about you looking back at the movie and the deal that you got. You weren't the hindsight tells you it wasn't a good deal for you. You were saying that it wasn't fair to Fahmarr, sort of how you handled it. Just curious, maybe a little clarity on that as to what exactly you're talking about. Was it just the monetary part? You don't think it was enough in exchange?
Well, definitely the monetary part. And I thought about it prior, but I didn't know the ripple effect it would have on other situations in my life. I'm not sure, but I believe we talked about it when we first started this conversation about how it was unfortunate the way my mom was portrayed in the movie.
Yeah.
And whereas, she's more than an addict. And not that I blame Disney for any of that. It's just that I didn't know. I was so giddy and so excited about it that I didn't think about, any ramifications. I thought it was just all good, no matter how it went down, because in my mind, it was a blessing just to have the opportunity. Being young and where I was in my life. And the part where I spoke about Fahmarr is that the part where, Fahmarr trusted me to take care of everything. And I didn't do it in the best way possible.
What do you mean?
I should have got us a better deal.
Mm-hmm. Financially.
Right.
With regard to with regard to both, with that part of it, the financial part, and then the part about the way your mother was portrayed, when did it dawn on you? When did it start to sort of strike you that other side of it? Of man, this isn't all peaches and cream. This isn't just a good story being told about me. There are other ramifications here.
Shortly thereafter, because I was just, everything was happening. It was just exciting. And then it was like, okay, now the movie's out. And I think it kind of hit me when my mom said someone from her job asked her if that was her.
Uh-huh.
And where on one end it's, your son has a movie, that's exciting. That's great. But on the other hand, it's, well, in that movie, you're a crackhead. Did you ever not be a crackhead?
Mm-hmm.
There was a picture at the end, but nobody really stays for the credits.
After the credits?
Yeah.
What was that picture of? I forgot. I saw it, but
It was me, my mom, and Fahmarr.
that's right.
And during that time, she was doing a lot better.
How about now?
It's touch and go.
In terms of her sort of lapsing back into old habits.
Yeah.
You also said, I think in Memphis to the crowd there, it really how they portrayed your dad was your late father, really affected you greatly because you didn't consider at the time, like, you know, he was going through his own life, making his own decisions, and part of the reasons that he would leave was because of your mother's addiction, and that's a reasonable and, you know, not an unreasonable thing to do. Can you share more about sort of the deeper part of that, about how your father is portrayed in this movie, and then the reality of your experiences with him and your remembrances of him?
Okay. The reality of it is my dad's a damn superhero. Right up there with Spider-Man, Superman, and, you know, the character of Obama, what people think about. Just a stand-up guy, right? Early on in my life, I wanted to be just like my dad. He smoked Newports and drink Budweiser. I wanted to smoke Newports and drink Budweiser. He worked for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution delivering papers. It was what I thought what I wanted to do with my life. It was one of the funnest jobs I ever had, running around with him on a truck. And I think back to those times. And when me and my dad got super close is when it was just us two. And my mom was in rehab with the other kids. But I was old enough to stay with my dad. And I stayed with him, and he took care of me. You know, he worked a job. He worked at night. He'll come home, make sure I'm awake, and then he'll pass out because he's worked all night. But, you know, we had times, and since he worked so much, typically we ate fast food. So Crystals and Waffle House was like our thing. We typically ate late at night. And one of the reasons I probably have insomnia now. But back to why he's a superhero. Like, he was there. My dad didn't graduate high school. He had been working all his life. I think at the height of his, you know, earning, he made, and this is later on in life when he lived in Vegas, but during that time, he made $13 an hour was like it. And, you know, that was some of the better times in my life. And what I try to convey to an audience typically is that, you know, imagine you're at home, you're a family man, you married, you think you did everything that you're supposed to do. You have a wife, you got the kids, you working every day, everything's taken care of. You know, you got TVs and radios, and you got worldly things as well as, you know, your family. And you get off of work one day, you come home, everything's fine. Kids are running around a little bit, but that's normal. You come home, you chill out, you watch some TV, but you know you got to go to work a little bit later. You eat some dinner, you go to sleep. And you go to sleep before everybody else. But you wake up, you leave, say, 1 a.m. in the morning. By the time you get back to the house after your shift, all the things that you knew were, you know, what you thought were permanent are now transient or transitory, as they talk about inflation. And so it's a fire sale. Everything in your house gone. No more TVs, no VCRs, no radios. Any packaged food is already sold. Your wife is missing and the kids are running around, and you just got off work and nothing happened to bring this on.
Nothing that you did.
Nothing that you did.
Yeah.
Right. And you go to work and you come home and then your whole world is turned upside down. And it's unfortunate. My mom did that several times. And he stayed for years with that being the possibility. And so the amount of stress that can cause, the amount of inadequacy that can insecurities that can bring up, I never considered them as a young man. Hell, I ain't consider them much as a grown up, because it wasn't until after 25 why I took a different perspective.
So until then, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Until then,
I was like, until then, you just blamed him. You just viewed him as the guy who left your mom, abandoned the family.
Yeah, he broke up the family.
Yeah.
You know, they say dad gets to mess up one time, and forget him. Mom can mess up as much as she wants, she's still mom. But dad messes up once, and then you start calling by his first name. Mm-hmm. And I was that kid. I was the bastard asshole kid that, not necessarily a bastard because my parents were married, but I was the asshole kid that didn't take perspective into account. I mean, I was young. It's not like I was supposed to be able to, but it would have been a lot easier for me coming up, dealing with my father. And, you know, since his passing, it would have been a lot easier if I wasn't such a dick. If I wasn't so resentful, if I wasn't so angry.
When did he pass?
2018, I'm mistaken.
And can you refresh me on what it was of?
Heart failure.
Heart failure.
At 54.
54.
Yeah.
Were there things that you weren't able to tell him that you, and you know, had you gotten this sort of revised mindset perspective before he passed?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So
I had some of it, but not enough to voice it, because there was still some anger there. Because, you know, a lot of the times we get it in our mind that we have time to fix stuff. So it wasn't necessarily a rush to do so. I'm like, I got time. And the only way I wanted to argue about it. Because that's the emotion that I was feeling. I was hurt. So I was ready to fight.
And say what? Like, why did you do what?
Why didn't you come back for me?
Mm-hmm. Come back for you when?
When I was living with my coaches.
High school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, middle school, high school.
Mm-hmm. He was in Vegas still at this time?
Well, before he was in Atlanta. Early on in middle school, he was in Atlanta, then he moved to Vegas, I think my 7th, 8th grade year.
Why do you think he didn't come back for you?
You know how you put things off to a point where when you started it, it wasn't that bad. But by the time you came back to it, it became something that felt overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been easier to, you know, well, in his mind, I'm okay. Let me say it. Let me think in the best possible scenario. I was better off where I was probably his mindset.
Right. With coaches.
Yes, it was a more stable situation. He was staying with a girlfriend at the time who I didn't get along with at all. And nothing because of what she did. It was more so because I was upset about like her part in breaking up my family. So I would give her hell too. I'd go in the house, I'd take her cigarettes and throw them away. Take the remote and make it go missing. Just anything to make her life a little bit harder.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you.
I mean, it created a untenable situation. And that's initially why I left and went with my coaches. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, eventually he's gonna get rid of her, and he'll get back on his feet, and you know. But then I thought, because a young lady said something to me like this, you know, how many times do you have to break someone before they're broken? And I believe my dad had been went through too many breaks, not getting enough breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, had too many breaks, no Kit Kats. And it broke him. And just the stress of having to start over and try to build something when your resources are limited. Hello?
Yep, I'm here. You know, when as storytellers, whether it's Disney or whether it's me, a writer for the Post and Courier in 2006, August of 2006, trying to tell your story, you know, you put things in little boxes. And at that time, the way I told the story from you was, you know, the dad is, you know, just sort of this, he's not there. He's this, you know, out of the picture, sort of a deadbeat. And then the focus is more on the mom as she's trying to get better.
Right.
That kind of sucks that's the way it, not that, you know, I mean, I'm sure if you would have told a fuller story of your dad at the time, I would have chronicled that. But it kind of sucks that there's so many things get put in the little boxes because the story is almost always so much deeper than that with individuals. And how did your dad respond or react to when you and Fahmarr became such a big story? And at best, he was not even really mentioned.
Well, my younger brother Cornelius was staying with him at the time, and he tells me that my dad was proud.
Mm. Wow.
Although it didn't necessarily put him in the greatest light, the fact that he had a son that was capable of doing the things that I was doing, it made him proud that, you know, that's my son. And he had this big thing about my name, like like our name, McElrathbey. He has this real pride thing about our name. So, and I have the same thing. So to see our name, the family name, somewhere and it's doing good, and it always made him feel great because it's like, because for him, that was an extension of him. He made that happen.
You said Cornelius told you what your dad thought. You and your dad never spoke about it?
Mm-mm.
Why not?
One of those touchy things, I believe, for me. Because it's another situation which I had some issues. I'm like, he could have stepped up. But truth be told, he couldn't. Because at the time when I did get Fahmarr, he was out there with my mom again, and she was on her, you know, doing her thing.
How long did you go without talking to your dad?
I mean, I never went more than 5-6 months. I was always able to keep it cordial. and we never really talked about things in depth.
He would never say something like, "I'm proud of you, son, for doing what you're doing."
No, my dad told me twice in his life that he loves me. I remember each time.
When were those times?
One, when I was younger, he stopped me. It was the weirdest thing. He stopped me in the middle of the steps, like, 'cause it was upstairs, downstairs, in the middle of the steps. He stopped me, and it took a lot out of him to do it. And he was like, "I love you." And me being the kid, I'm like, okay, Dad, love you too. But for him, he wasn't one to express emotions like that. Typically, like unlike myself, I used to be closed down as a kid, and I was angry because of it, because I never got any of those emotions out. So I would tend to sometimes snap. Because he was a real closet person as far as his emotions were concerned and his feelings. Like I can't remember having a conversation with my dad about feelings, about how he feels. I think the closest I got to a feeling conversation with him, I was asking him about his libido. Because I was wondering where I would be when I got older, because at the time I felt like I was sex crazed. And that's the only thing that I can remember speaking to my dad, that where it was like we had almost like a father-son moment. We shared things like, the love of old music. So like the Temptations, the OJs, Stevie Wonder, like old school music. Like we shared that. We might have a conversation about that and our love for action movies. And so, like, it's hard for me to watch. Hold on. Shit.
Take your time, man.
Okay. My dad was a real big John Clive Van Damme fan, Chuck Norris fan. So movies like Bloodsports and Rambo and it was other movies like he used to love when I was little. And I might have found it on the TV the other day, and it reminded me of it. It's called Action Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny, I can remember days watching that movie over and over again. He loved that movie. It was like his sleep movie. By sleep movie, it's the movie you watch typically before you go to sleep. You know all the parts, so just hearing it, you don't necessarily have to watch it because you know what's happening. Yeah, and it was I actually watched it 2 days ago.
Wow.
And it came out in 1988, which is, I was only 2 when it came out, but I can remember watching it so many times. And just the old movies kind of brings that type of nostalgia. When I watch them, any John Wayne or Clint Eastwood, he was real big on Westerns. I couldn't stand him at the time. Yeah, it was that kind of stuff that, like, me and my dad, we had conversations about things that we shared in common. And it was only because I was trying to be like him at the time that I even probably got into those things, because I can remember during the time I wasn't necessarily into all that kind of stuff. But now it because of the nostalgia, and then even just growing up and being able to understand movies, but it's even more nostalgia now. Just watching and thinking about those times, because there were times like, I had a real family. I had my own room, lived in a house. My dad taught me how to ride a bike. The first time I drove a car was in his lap. And so it's those memories that if I think back, like, there was some wonderful times. And due to my mother's condition, they didn't last as long as they should have. And it was through no fault of my dad's, but, you know, I blamed him for every damn thing.
You don't think he was ever hurt that those parts of your story weren't publicized or chronicled?
No. I never really thought about it.
But you said earlier you were a teenager, you're a college student. You're not supposed to have the wisdom of a however old you are right now, you know? You're not it's not fair to you, not fair to expect you to even-handedly, you know, tell the most favorable story about everybody, you know?
Yeah.
It's not your responsibility. When was the second time he told you he loved you?
He came to visit me at one of my coach's house. I was 15. He had just came over there because he was in town. He was about to go back to Vegas. And we were sitting in his van. And he told me before it left.
This is high school.
Yes.
After you watched the movie for the first time, or as you watched it, what was your... I mean, I know in the moment there's all this celebration and you're doing all these interviews, and so it's hard to really have your feet on the ground at that precise moment. I'm just curious when you first saw the finished product, what your reaction was, or what your feeling was when after the credits rolled and you saw that picture and you walk away and you're trying to and you're assessing the movie and it's whether it told the story the way you hoped and all the complicated things that are surrounding that.
The story it told the story pretty well of what it was trying to convey. But as far as my life is concerned, it has nothing to do with my life. That's how I look at that time is pretty insignificant.
The movie.
Say again?
The movie itself or that time in your life?
Both.
Yeah.
Because while I was excited about the fact that when I was younger, there was a movie called Angels in the Outfield. And it talked about how his foster kid was hoping that his dad came back. And his dad told him if the Angels win the pennant. And so he had wished that the Angels had won the pennant. And the Angels had came and helped the Angels get to the pennant. But that movie was like one of the greater movies of my childhood because it was like one of those hopeful movies. Like, okay, I hope my people come back and get me. And it was a movie that I could identify with. And it was one of my favorite movies to this day. And so I was excited about the fact that people watched it and they got that feeling. Where it's like, oh, I'm not alone again. I'm not alone. There's somebody out there. And my story And what I was able to do will be that for them, be that Angels in the Outfield story, that the story of hope, that it'll be okay. And so that's the greatest thing I can take from the movie. But it's looking back, just kind of taking it all in. It didn't tell enough about the most important things about me.
Such as your dad.
So again, such as my dad, such as my mom.
Yeah.
In the real struggle. Because the real struggle wasn't when I was in Clemson.
Right. It was middle school.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah. It was more middle school, high school.
Well, actually more elementary.
Elementary.
That's when all the drama of my life was happening. That's when I got arrested. That's when I got kicked out of school. That's when my mom was in the height of her addiction. That's when it was the most chaotic times of my life. And I think more people will identify with those times than the times at Clemson. Because, yeah, you could be great with, you know, especially the way Clemson is doing now, the chances of you making it, going to Clemson and playing football are like making it to the NFL. Slim chance of you know, creating those situations. And I didn't want anybody to think that this is how it had to be for you to be able to make it. Because it doesn't happen like that for everybody. So just like I was taking care of my brother, there were probably, you know, my sister did it before I did. She was taking care of two of my siblings when she was in school. But she didn't play football.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of unsung heroes that I think will identify more with what happened prior to Clemson as opposed to during.
Well, maybe you can tell that story in your new, with this reinvented public speaking, FCA, helping people version of you.
Yeah. We can write a book.
What's that?
We can write a book.
Yeah. Or that. How often do you talk to your mother?
She was over here yesterday.
You're breaking up a little bit.
She was over here yesterday.
Okay.
She was at my house yesterday.
So she's just up and down, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Some good days and there's some bad days.
How do you think she looks back at the movie 2 years later?
Similar to my dad, where that's your kid, that's your name, you're proud. But at the same time, it's like winning a championship and you know you in the last seat. Sometimes you don't know your contribution to the overall thing, but you were the scout team player, you were the practice dummy, you were the tackling dummy, you were significant in ways that you don't feel were significant. And for me, I think that it's somewhat like that, where yeah, you're excited, you're a part of it, but you know, with the wrong attitude, you feel like you're in seat 15 and you didn't do anything for this ring. That's in basketball terms.
Yeah.
Or if you're a walk on or you're on scout team in football terms, that you know, okay, your team's the national champions, but you didn't play one down. So there's the excitement of, yay, we champions, but then at the same, I'm a champion, but at the same time, you question your role.
Yeah, the thing with a feel-good movie like that is the people who aren't involved walk away feeling good, and that's what they remember, but life goes on for everybody else who is involved.
This is true.
Ray, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to get off your chest? Is there anything I'm missing to catch up on?
Not this very moment. Not that I can think of. At the moment, there's nothing I can think of.
Well, man, I hope talking about hard things is obviously it's hard, but I hope it's helpful. I hope it's somewhat therapeutic, just to get it out. That wasn't my goal, but I hope that and I trust that there's a positive involved in it, and I hope you do too.
Oh no, I'm more than. I enjoy getting this shit out.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed to cry until I started crying. Someone was telling me not too long ago, was it yesterday, that I still have some healing to do. And they're wondering when I'm gonna be, when I'm across that threshold. And I couldn't give any date to it, because in my mind I know there's still some things I have to work through. And it's therapeutic to get to talk about it. That's just one of the bigger reasons I do talk about it. Yeah, I mean, just these different perspectives, because I never thought about it. Because what you brought up about, when my story first hit, let's say the first story came out, because my dad wasn't around once the movie came out. Unfortunately, he wasn't alive, but he was alive for the newspaper articles and the
Oprah.
Right, and for all of that, for all the things he did do during those times, to not get any credit, oh shit, it's painful. And dereliction of duty on my part, but shit, it's wow. And just that perspective, it makes me cry, but it's healing in a sense. Because the fact that I can cry means that there was, something to speak of. There was times there was credit due. Like, I should have gave him his rose when he was alive. Like, give them their flowers when they're here. And I did. And it's something I can regret. I mean, I only pray. But my mom tells me things like, he knows that you're kind of like him and you're not really great at this emotional thing. But your dad knew you loved him, and he knew you appreciated him, because I've had this conversation with my mom, and I've had it more since my dad's passed. But again, I didn't have the perspective that you just gave me. Like, oh yeah, there were a bunch of articles way before the movie that never mentioned him in a good light. Whereas my mom, we working on her. She has her struggles, but she's still great. My dad just like, oh, you ain't nobody. And that's not right. So, it'll be something I'll pay for the rest of my life, possibly. But that being said, that's something else that I can let people know to try to. That's my example, and for me, I know it should hit home, because it hit home with me. Like, I didn't think about it. It never even came up. I thought about the movie and possibly
Mm-hmm.
him being left out of that, but what about all the articles? Hell, and he was in the newspaper business.
But even still, he was able to be proud of you.
Yeah.
Which probably came from the understanding that you're a college kid and you'd been through a lot. So,
Well, part of that was probably, guilt on his part. Because I know if I feel like this, he's worse than me as far as the pride thing is concerned. So, although I might be feeling like this, I can only imagine how he felt. Hell, that's the stressors that I talk about with my dad. I can understand why he lived a short life, and this is kind of like to bring it all back. When I talk about ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, there's adult trauma too, and having a rough childhood does decrease your life expectancy because of the stress of life that it puts on your heart and your body. And if you're a kid on your developmental process, and even as a grown up on your just overall growth, and given all the hindrances, all the hurdles, it would have been hard to live a long life like this.
well, I trust that you're going to use that perspective and that example to be better, to improve on it. That's what life is all about.
Yeah, I need to be more like my dad.
Well, but less like him in some ways, right?
Hey, yeah, but more in my mind because there's this. Because the parts I do have, I like to think of them as all good parts, but all of them are significant. All the moments.
I bet you told you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was about to say, and that's also taking into account how my dad was raised.
Yeah.
And a lot of times as grown-ups, we forget that our parents were young once too. And they have stuff that they're still trying to work through. Because I'm an adult and I'm working through things from my childhood. They have things from their childhood that they haven't worked through yet. I know that's one of the reasons my mom continuously struggles. Because she's running from her past.
Hmm. I'm guessing you've told your 8-year-old son you love him more than twice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's maybe a day that goes by that I don't say it at least 3 times.
There you go.
Yeah, but my dude is better off because of what I went through.
That's right. No doubt. Well, Ray, I am glad you're alive after our last conversation. Very thankful that you're in one piece after that horrible accident, and really uplifting to hear what your new path is looking like as it materializes, as you sort of find your calling. And there will always be a microphone here for you as we keep in touch. I know there are plenty of people out there who want to continue learning about your journey, and as it gets into more of the speaking realm, hopefully you have an open invitation to come back on whenever and however.
Well, I do appreciate that. And whenever you need my opinion, feel free to ask and I shall give.
You take care of yourself, Ray.
I shall. Thank you, sir.
Okay, not an easy conversation there, but hopefully it tells you a little more about the real world's events of Ray Ray's life and not the sort of sanitized version or the storybook version that you see on the Disney Channel. Appreciate his participation, appreciate his honesty, his willingness to share so much on some difficult topics. Appreciate our sponsors for being such loyal contributors and helping make the podcast happen. Most of all, thanks to all of you for hitting play every week. Cheers.